The twins, also known as Charlotte and for what feels like forever now, they have been one of the least played killers in the entire game. Spotting them out in the wild is a pretty rare sight. But why exactly is that? On paper, they are one of the most unique killers in Dead by Daylight. No other killer allow you to be at two places at once. No other killers allow you to absolutely yeet yourself on top of survivors. Sounds like a pretty fun killer overall, until you actually play with or against them and you realize how problematic they are. Before we start talking about the many issues plaguing the twins, no, not you play, get out of here. Let's do a quick rundown of how they actually work. Let's hope it will be quick, because they are quite complicated. You start the match controlling Charlotte, a regular M1 killer with nothing really special about her. At any given moment, you have the option to detach your baby brother Victor from Charlotte's questionable design choice of a hole placement, for a lack of a better word, allowing you to control Victor, leaving Charlotte's body behind. Victor is really fast, moving at 150% movement speed to be exact, making you zoom across the map in record speeds. Now, unlike Charlotte, Victor's way of dealing damage to survivors is by using his pounce attack. Victor charges up his pounce, yeets himself on top of survivors. Unlike a killer like Demogorgon that also yeets himself on survivors, Demo's Shred plays more like an extended lunge, whilst Victor's Dash plays more like a Hunter's Hatchet, which means he can go through windows, above pallets, and above any solid terrain that his jump height allows him to, therefore making Victor the only killer in the game that is also a projectile. If Victor hits a healthy survivor with his pounce, Victor will injure the survivor and latch himself onto him. Right then and there, the killer player loses control over Victor and forced back into Charlotte. As the killer player makes his way across the map with Charlotte, slowly but surely, Victor is chilling on top of the survivor, making him broken, oblivious, and also incapacitated, which basically means he cannot do gens or heal other survivors, rendering him practically useless. The survivor then gets a choice, either crush Victor quickly, but at the cost of returning him back to Charlotte way quicker, or taking Victor hostage, making the killer forced to play as Charlotte until given the option to call Victor back. Now, since Victor is an absolute machine of war, and Charlotte plays more like a Nerf gun, the obvious choice is taking him hostage. Now, in case Victor lands a pounce on a survivor that was already injured, the survivor will fall into the dying state, but Victor won't latch onto him. In fact, Victor is free to continue his murder spree. But, right after Victor lands the hit, Victor will turn vulnerable for few seconds, making him look all reddish-like. Any survivor nearby has a short window where he can crush Victor, returning him to Charlotte after a short but punishing cooldown. Additionally, if Victor misses his pounce, he turns vulnerable as well for the same short window, allowing any survivor nearby to kick him right in the face. At any given moment, the killer can switch between Charlotte and Victor, although when Victor is left alone, he will turn vulnerable, but not completely helpless. He will get the ability to detect survivors that are close to him with killer instinct, allowing the killer to quickly switch back to Victor before he gets obliterated. However, if the survivor is crouching, Victor won't be able to detect him, opening a window for a sneak attack. So, now that we know how they work, let's talk about the issues with them. Like most killers who have a projectile attack in their kit, that opens up so many opportunities for creativity and chase. Snipes, fakes, trick shots, orbitals, and so much more. Victor has the ability to do most of those things, but unfortunately in most cases it's not really the best idea to go for those shots. For example, if you miss a shot with a character like Huntress, it's okay. You're still in chase and you still have more hatchets, you just missed an opportunity for a quick hit. If you miss a shot with Victor, that's it. You get crushed and back to Charlotte, with no power half a map away. That absolutely sucks. Therefore, the only reasonable play is to hug the survivor as tight as you can, which is super easy because of how fast Victor is, and pounce from zero distance, which is basically a free hit with nothing the survivors can do about it. That is not fun. In fact, that is not fun for both sides. Anyways, so issue number 1 is lack of interactivity in chase for both sides. Issue number 2 is slugging. Heavy slugging. On the twins you have to slug, and heavily. Most of the hits you are going to get are with Victor, and Victor cannot pick up survivors. Charlotte is usually pretty far away, so switching to her in order to go pick up is a huge waste of time. So, in order to get the most out of Victor in one go, you need to get as many hits as you can on an already injured survivors, downing them and keep going for the next one, until you either lose Victor cause somebody kicked him in the face right after you down someone, or he got latched onto a healthy survivor, injuring him and getting him ready for Victor's next slugging spree. Now, a quick disclaimer, I don't mind slugging as a strategy on any other killer. In fact, if done correctly and under the right circumstances, it's a necessary strategy to punish survivors' mistakes. But on the twins case, I have to agree. The fact that every single match with the twins will include in one way or another multiple survivors slugged on the ground for long duration, because that is the only way to play this killer optimally, is a design flaw, and it's not healthy for the game. Now granted, there is counterplay for the twins' heavy slugging playstyle. A good coordinated survivor team could play in pairs, kicking Victor after every single down, preventing him from slugging everyone. But this level of coordination is so rare in a game where a majority of the players are playing in solo queue, and a lot of them are not even aware of the counterplays with the twins, because you see these killers one in 2 blue moons. And there are no combs either, so that doesn't help. That's leading me directly into the third issue. The twins are solo queue stompers. In conclusion, the 3 major issues with the twins are 1. Lack of interactivity in chase for both sides, 2. Heavily incentivized to slug, and 3. Solo queue stomping. In order for the Rework concept to be successful, it needs to tackle all of those issues, but also not change their core gameplay, so the twins would not lose their identity. With that in mind, I'm not going to introduce any new mechanics for the twins, only build up and slightly alter existing ones, so the killer would feel more healthy for the game. It is finally time to talk about the Rework. So let's start with Victor. As I mentioned before, Victor is a projectile. Unlike the rest of the projectiles in the game, he is very limited. This is the highest he can go, and this is the lowest. So, in order to get more in line with the other projectiles in the game, such as Huntress's hatchets, Unknown's bubble, Springtrap's axe, and much more, let's give him more leeway, in fact, more leeway than most. Let's give Victor the ability to pounce at any angle up to directly upwards and directly downwards, giving him the ability to go for shots like this, and like this. With all these new possibilities, how do we make sure that Victor doesn't go for the free hit anyway, since it's easier? I don't want to take away from Victor's speed. Sure, he is quick, but that is the only form of map traversal the twins have. Yet. So, slowing him down is off the table. With that in mind, the next change, and bear with me on that one, Victor is always vulnerable. If Victor gets too close to a survivor, that survivor gets a prompt to crush Victor at any given time, and the survivor doesn't need to hold it like it is right now. He gets the prompt, presses it, and Victor dies instantly. Most of you probably raised an eyebrow by now, and understandably. This is a massive nerf, but a necessary one to prevent Victor from getting cheap shots. But I agree, that would make Victor far too weak. Especially around those smaller objects Victor really struggles around and have to get close in order to get the hit. So let's work around that. The next change is, every time Victor bounces and misses, Victor will be protected for 7 seconds, making him look all wily-like, similar to a survivor who got hit with an endurance. That would signal the survivor that Victor cannot be kicked in that duration. That way, Victor is incentivized to go for long-range shots. If he gets a hit, good. If he misses, it's okay. He is now closer to the survivor, he cannot be kicked since he is protected, and he can try again. And those 7 seconds should give him enough time to get up close to a survivor that refuses to leave a tiny object that Victor struggles with. No more being punished the whole chase for missing once. On top of that, the protected mechanic isn't even new. It was introduced with the last time behavior tried to rework the twins, but in a way that made Victor an absolute menace in chase that could down survivor in less than 7 seconds, making even the nerfs look B-tier. No wonder it never went live. On paper it sounds a lot better, but there is one big flaw. What's to stop Victor from spamming pounces across the map to be protected forever, making him play like the nurse on a gigadose of painkillers. To fix that comes the last change that will summon Victor's chase power. When Victor leaves Charlotte, he gets a total of 4 pounces he can use. If Victor wastes all of his pounces, Victor is exhausted and returns to Charlotte immediately. If the killer switches back to Charlotte while Victor is out in the open, Victor will replenish his pounces over time. All of those changes combined will get Victor more in line with the rest of the projectile characters, by rewarding skillful usage of the power, preventing cheap shots, and punishing mindless spamming and careless usage of the power. I feel like it should strike a good balance of interactivity and chase for both the survivors and the twins, making them infinitely more enjoyable to play with or against, and way more skill expressive for both sides. With interactivity and chase fixed, we are still left with 2 more issues: slugging and solo queue stomping. Like we did last time, we will start with yet another big nerf, and then later work our way around it for maximum balancing. For the next change, we are going to, yet again, borrow elements from another mechanic that was introduced at the last Twins official rework. Back then, Victor got the ability to latch himself onto Survive Your Z Downed instead of Survive Your Z Injured. However, for our rework, we are going to tweak it a little bit. What I had in mind is not a simple trade offer, it's doubling down. Victor will always latch himself onto a Survivor after a successful hit, whether he is injured or downed. That is definitely a huge nerf, especially if Charlotte is far away, forcing her to go huge distances just to get a hook. But I believe I have the perfect workaround for that. Let's start by making sure the Survivor doesn't get up by the time Charlotte gets there. If Victor is latched onto a down Survivor, Victor must be removed by another Survivor in order for him to start recovering or be healed. The process of removing Victor takes 8 seconds. Making sure the Survivor won't be up by the time Charlotte gets there is a start, but it's definitely not enough, since she still has to waste a ton of time walking there. So far, we have only showed love to Victor. Now it's finally time to show some love for Charlotte. And I think that's a great opportunity to borrow a mechanic from another killer. Whenever the killer is in control of Charlotte and Victor is far away, whether he is latched onto a Survivor or standing in the middle of nowhere, a trail would spawn leading directly to Victor in the shortest possible way. When walking on the trail, Charlotte is moving at 150% speed. In my mind, it would even make sense lore-wise, because Charlotte wants to be reunited with Victor or something, I don't know. I'm not really a lore guy, to be honest. Anyways, that's enough stealing from Dog Lady for one day, and that is also slugging resolved, but I'm not done just yet. Moving on with the changes to the twins, in addition to the trail, if Charlotte enters chase with a Survivor while Victor is latched onto him, the trail disappears and Charlotte gets a constant 10% haste and the ability to break pallets with her M1 attack so long as she's within chase with the latched Survivor. If the chase ends for any reasons, the trail reappears and will remain there until Victor is either crushed, called back, or Charlotte re-enters chase with the latched Survivor. And in order for Charlotte not to feel too oppressive, while in chase, the time to crush Victor is cut by half, and the crushing animation no longer stops the Survivor, so it can be done mid-chase with less risk. With those changes in place, Charlotte is actually incentivized to go for the hook on a down Survivor, and she gets a Formula 1 type map traversal in order to compensate for the distance she has to walk. Also, she is provided for the first time ever with an actual chase power that plays a lot like Clown's Bottle of Speed and Miguel's pallet shredding ability. Not impossible to play around from the Survivor side, since Victor is now easier to crush and it can be done mid-chase, but still very challenging. And that's the second reason why I like this change so much. As of the twins right now, taking Victor hostage is the best way because it basically prevents the twins from using any kind of power. But with these changes, the latched Survivor actually has a choice. Either he crushes Victor, returning him to Charlotte quicker, or he decides to take Victor hostage and accept the fact that the crazy woman is rapidly approaching his location. And now he has to manage to crush Victor before Charlotte downs him, or he wastes a ton of resources. And after all of that, every interaction with the twins became more personalized and down to the skill of the killer and the chased Survivor. Plus the fact that Victor is out of the picture for a while after a successful down, and the fact that Charlotte is now able to secure a pickup, and pretty fast. That means there is no longer a need for overcomplicated team play, which means the third and last issue is also resolved. Well, that's about all I got. So let's take a moment to reflect. From a killer who felt borderline impossible to beat in chase, that was incentivized to go for cheap shots and overall a boring playstyle, and also required a SWAT team level of coordination in order to beat. Now we have a killer that rewards skill expression from both sides. Playing as the twins demands more skillful and interesting use of Victor, while adding plenty of counterplay to the survivors. Taking Victor hostage is no longer a way to force the killer to play with no power. It's a decision that actually has consequences and might get you killed faster. Slugging is no longer a must-do in order to see success, and remains an option, just like it is with the rest of the killers. With all those things considered, an extremely coordinated team play is no longer a requirement in order to beat the twins. Although, taking hits and body blocking for a teammate that is on death hook remains more than welcome, yet again, just like it is with the rest of the killers. Well, that's about it. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Now, I would very much like to hear in the comments what do you think of the Rework concept? What did you like more? What did you like less? And what would you have done differently? And until next time, I wish you all a phenomenal day. Peace.